10 a.m. There you go. Yeah. 10 a.m. on a Sunday panel. Had this been a party con, I don't know how many of y'all or if I would have been up by this point, but hey, we are here, ready to knock this out. So etiquette of cosplay photography, other considerations, so basically creating beautiful imagery while staying safe. So really what I'm going to be talking about is that relationship between cosplay and photography, and the relationship between cosplayers and photographers. I've been at this for 8 years, seen some stuff, heard stories from cosplayers who've seen some stuff, and it's not ideal, to say the least. It's not. Sometimes it's real bad. Sometimes it's people get canceled on the internet, on the Twitters, with receipts, pages upon pages of receipts. Like, oh my God, that is a whole novel. But for this panel, I'm not going to go into a lot of the negatives. I'm here to educate, let y'all know just what's out there, how we as photographers should conduct ourselves, what cosplayers should expect from a shoot. All photographers are going to be different in terms of how they act, how they provide guidance, how they communicate, because we're all different, right? For me, I'm very communicative when it comes to posing. Other folks may not be. That's just how it is. But when it comes to photography, when it's at a convention, whether it's at a location, it is a partnership between the cosplayer and the photographer. The two sides must work together in order to create images that are beautiful, that are meaningful. But we also have to be on the same page. We have to provide safety for one another, be clear and communicative about our boundaries and our intentions. And who here is a photographer? Okay, a little bit. So really, we are at a very interesting point where if we're looking at social media, for being kind of honest, cosplayers don't necessarily need photographers to thrive on social media. They have their cell phones. They can do, heaven forbid, TikTok, which is the bane of my existence, but that's a whole nother conversation. That's my geriatric millennial coming out. Yeah, weaponized ADHD, yes. So we have to be very mindful of that. And and I do a lot of thinking about what my place as a photographer is, and understanding that, hey, people want to work with me because they want to work with me. And people want photos because they want to capture the work that they did. They may not blow up on social media. Maybe they will. Maybe they somehow blow up on Reddit with a good post. But photography is definitely about capturing moments. Capturing that moment that I made this costume. And that's really the huge value about photography. So really, when somebody reaches out to us as a photographer for a shoot, whether it be a friend, whether it be some stranger, we have to be mindful of that. But we also have to be mindful of our own time. There are a lot of cosplayers out there who want shoots. Some of them for wholesome intentions, some of them because they're looking for content that week, and it's like, gimme, gimme, gimme. So we do have to be mindful of our own time, our own energy. So that's what I sort of mean by that space of partnership, working together with people who we gel with. Cosplayer to photographer, photographer to cosplayer. So, a little scenario, photographer asks the cosplayer to do a photo shoot. The cosplayer looks at that photographer's work. Let's go through Instagram. They like what they see. Cosplayer even goes as far as asking other cosplayers who've worked with this photographer about their experience with said photographer. I feel like I'm going to say cosplay and photography a lot today. But the reviews are glowing, so the cosplayer agrees, and in planning, both the photographer and cosplayer communicates that expectations, the locations, time of the photo shoot. On the day of the shoot, both parties arrive early. During the shoot, communications are still clear. photographer's always checking in. Are you okay? Do you need anything? They're able to work together with posing. Photographer poses the model, the cosplayer, without having to actually touch them. But if they need to touch anything, they ask for permission first. So the cosplayer also has brought a good friend, a trusted handler, to feel safe while assisting with the shoot. So that's like an ideal world, especially like an on-location photo shoot. There have been plenty of stories out there where that was not what was followed. And you probably have your own stories about working with a photographer, working with a cosplayer where things were out of alignment. The photographer tried to change things up at the last minute. Say, hey, we want to do a boudoir shoot when you came in looking for a shoot of your magical girl or something. Or the cosplayer shows up 2 hours late and the sun is completely gone. And now it's like, well, okay, I guess we'll try to do this, but again, things were out of alignment. So some rules to live by. One, respect boundaries. Respect the cosplayer's boundaries. Some folks are going to be a lot more open, a lot more relaxed. Other folks, somebody might be a new cosplayer, never done this before. If you're a photographer, that's going to be their first experience with the scene. You are setting the tone. And same reverse. Cosplayers working for photographers. There are plenty of times when a photographer might just be completely exhausted and not able to do a shoot or grab quick photos at that particular moment. They might not be comfortable with particular poses or going in particular locations. So it's really about establishing those boundaries, respecting those boundaries. Respect the location. That's my pet peeve. Whether or not you're at a convention, whether or not you're on location, there might be some rules that location has. There are other people at that location. And I'll go into this more, people, when they're looking in, I mean, you're the representative of the cosplay community when you're at a location. And I've seen more and more hotels just be done with cosplay. AWA got moved. Hallmat got moved. If we act a fool, people are going to be over it. That's just what it is. So respect the location. Don't dirty the location. It's not your space. We're all sharing the space. That sort of thing. Be professional. So level set our intentions and expectations. So be professional in our communications while we're on the shoot. Don't be creepy. Don't say weird, out-of-pocket stuff unless both parties are weird and out of pocket. Then by all means, if you all establish, hey, we are both very weird people, let's go. But if you're working with somebody new, maybe dial down the weirdness a lot until you start getting a feel for this person if they are okay with mutual weirdness. Level set expectations. Understand that we are different people, sort of going back to what I was saying, in terms of our how we interact with each other. Some people are going to be very open to whatever weird conversations we have. Other folks are going to be like, I'm not really vibing with that dude. So understand people are going to be different. So me as a photographer, I have to gauge, and even then I'm still professional. But I do gauge people. There have been plenty of times where even talking to somebody is like pulling teeth. And it's like, all right, you are very shy, very reserved. I respect that. Let me work with that. Try to break, when I say break you out of your shell, get you comfortable with posing, get you comfortable with the shoot, but not pushing their boundaries. And big one, photography is not a dating app. If you are coming in as a photographer to hook up, I have news for you. We're nerds with camera. Cosplayers are not going to blow up because of our photos, and if they do, it's not like our work is what's having them blow up. I've heard plenty of stories where photographers are like, "Oh, you shoot with me, you'll get big." Now, maybe back in like 10 years ago, but again, back to my point. There's TikTok. There's selfies. I've seen plenty of bathroom selfies go more viral than some of my favorite shoots that I've ever done. And that's just sort of the nature of like the current social media beast. So photography isn't that place to try to find dates, try to hook up. So I'm going to break this up, like con etiquette, con considerations, certain things to watch out for. So part of this is going to be safety. Part of this is going to be purely logistical. I've had enough experience with photo shoots to understand things go hilariously wrong, and you're like, well, all my plans are now out the window, so let's figure this out. So for photographers, it's fine to do like off-site photo shoots, especially if you're at a con, but establish that ahead of time. Hey, because most con locations are kind of not great. Like around here, there's some trees, but it's like 100 degrees, bare sun. Let's go off-site, but let's establish, hey, let's go off-site ahead of time. Don't surprise a cosplayer day of, like, hey, want to go off-site? You can ask that question, but don't be offended if they say, no, I'm not good with that, dude. Because everybody has a schedule. It takes time to go off-site. It might take 30 minutes to go out, shoot for an hour, shoot for 30 minutes, and then 30 minutes to get back. Cons are very hectic, and also it could just very well not feel right. Cosplayer might be like, the vibes aren't off with trying to go off-site with this photographer who I have not met before. So again, clear communications ahead of time, clear on your intentions. At a con, logistical, set a meeting time and location, especially when you have limited cell phone service and you're at a busy con like a Katsucon or a Dragon Con. Having that meeting time and that meeting location means, all right, we're going to meet at this very clear place. Don't just say the gazebo level at 10 at Katsu. If you've been to KatsuCon, good luck.
Also, don't say at the gazebo.
Yeah, yes.
No.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that. Be specific. Be as specific as you can. Let's meet by the fountain at 10. It's a lot easier to find somebody at the fountain. Yeah. So somewhere that's visible.
Visible place is also.
Yes. And don't separate a cosplayer from others if they are with other folks. It's okay if the cosplayer feels okay with going off on their own with you. That's fine. And I actually have a funny story about that. So when I first started World of Gwendana, I did not have my photo up as my profile pic. It was just my logo. So AWA 2017, 2018, I reached out to this cosplayer, one of my good friends now, said, hey, you want to shoot? She looked at my portfolio and said, hey, I would love to work with you. So get to AWA, I go to meet with this cosplayer, and she's like, oh my God, I thought you were a girl. World of Gwendana, yes, people thought I was not a 6'6" man. So her friend was like, red flags immediately, understandably, and I wasn't offended by that. But the friend did check, say, hey, are you okay with going out? The cosplayer was like, yeah, it's fine. So we did go off on our own, but if the friend had wanted to come along, I've been like, come on. Like, that's okay. So that's what I mean by don't separate. It's like, let the cosplayer be that judge if they want to bring somebody along. Allow for breaks when scheduling. Having back-to-back shoots with no break, it's a bold move, real bold move. Especially when a prop breaks or there's a costume malfunction and that shoot at 10 has to be pushed back to 11, which now impacts the shoot that was at 11, then the shoot at 12, cascading effect on your entire schedule. So give yourself breaks to sort of buffer, but also give yourself enough breaks so you can take a break, actually get lunch, actually get dinner. Share the space. That goes back to that. You do not own that location. You do not own that spot. Don't kick people out of that spot. If somebody is in the shot, you can nicely ask, hey, you're in the shot. Could you move over just a smidge? Is that okay? But for me, if I'm seeing somebody is shooting right over there, I'm going to do my best to frame them out as opposed to being like, don't you know who I am? Yeah, you're a nerd with a camera. Like, what do you want? So share the space, communicate after the shoot. If there are issues, like if you're not able to get photos out for whatever reason, in a reasonable amount of time, communicate that. Cosplayers, again, share the space. I've heard stories about cosplayers, sometimes with large followings. I mean, I've worked with plenty of cosplayers with large followings. I haven't really seen this, but I also do have a pretty big filter for folks. But folks who are like, think they're a bigger deal than they are and say, hey, you need to move because we're shooting here. We're all nerds at a convention playing dress up. Let's share that space. Let's work around each other, not work against each other. So yeah, it goes back to be respectful of the people around you. Hotels don't need our business. Maybe years ago, sure. And certain hotels, yeah, they probably do need our business because we are a nice bump in their revenue. But at a certain point, that threshold could get crossed if enough people are acting foolish. It's foolish on a photo shoot, climbing on things that they should not be, climbing on rocks at a resort hotel. Therefore, the resort hotel is like, you know what? Contract time, y'all can go. And that impacts everybody. So being respectful of that venue, they might be happier bringing in the farmers convention every year where a lot more chill folks are still spending their money. Be mindful of the photographer's time. Allot time for when things go wrong. Who here has had a major prop malfunction? Yep. You're out there on a shoot. It's like, I'm so excited. Snap. Anybody have any super glue? So that's going to impact time, your time, the photographer's time. And give a photographer a chance to edit photos. If it's a week, it's a little short. I know you're excited, but give them time. If you don't hear back after like a couple of months, then it's like, all right, let's see what's happening here. There have been cases where I've worked with a photographer and I've yet to see those photos. So I feel you on that. But still be mindful. So scheduling considerations. So less about etiquette, more about those considerations. It takes time to get in cosplay. We all know this. Early call times means early starts. In the example I gave yesterday, let's say you want to have a golden hour shoot in the morning, 7 a.m. Let's say it takes 3 hours to get into makeup and the cosplay. So you have to start at 4 a.m. to get ready. And you also have to allot time for waking up, getting a shower. So you could very well be getting up at 3:30 in the morning. So be mindful of that. And as a photographer, be mindful of that. But folks might be very interested, especially if they love your work. So I want to do this golden hour shoot with you. Be honored. I mean, you're still going to have to wake up too, but hey, not as bad as a cosplayer. But conventions are fun, but also keep that in mind in those early shoots, especially if you're at Dragon Con. I mean, you could say, yeah, we ball, we're going to do this. Yeah, con that never sleeps. So and maybe that's okay. There was a time where I did a 9 a.m. shoot on a Sunday at Dragon Con. Everybody was hungover. We all had a good time the night before, and we regretted that decision very promptly. But it was pain we all inflicted on ourselves. It's very different when you, as a cosplayer, is an hour, 2 hours late, and you've impacted the photographer's time. And it's very different when you're the photographer and you show up hungover to a paid photo shoot. So when you are scheduling, keep that in mind. That night before, get a good night's sleep. Or if you are the type who likes to indulge, maybe don't schedule those early morning shoots. I don't schedule early morning shoots at Dragon Con for that reason, because Dragon Con is Dragon Con. Allow for breaks. Be prepared for your schedule to get thrown out a window, especially at a busy con. A real good con is when that schedule is followed, but that's very rare. So get ready for things to go wrong. Have that backup plan and be flexible. Like MomoCon this year, I had like one shoot and one shoot only. It was a man cosplayer dressed up as Ava Unit 01. Legitimately an Ava. I wasn't even planning to shoot at MomoCon, but he reached out and was like, "You have an Ava?" Yes. So the original plan was to shoot that Saturday. Weather was looking a little sketchy. Could have made it work. But it was Friday, and I saw him walking around in Ava at Golden Hour. I was like, you know what? We're doing this now. We're just, nope. Yep, we're just going to do this now. Got amazing shots, had that flexibility, like got the shoot out the way as fast as possible. All right. Do have a story time, but I'm not going to go into that because we're about 30 minutes in. I'm very early in these slides. So let's keep moving. Hallway etiquette for photographers. So let's say you're a hallway photographer, like doing the hallway shot thing, or you're looking to grab some really good photos with the cosplayer at a con. Cosplayers don't owe us their time. It's nice when they say yes to photos. But if the cosplayer is eating, resting, or just exhausted, let them rest. Let them eat. Even this past weekend, I asked a couple of cosplayers, "Hey, you want some photos?" And they said, "You know what? I'm tired. Maybe later." And that's okay. So don't be offended if a cosplayer says no. If a cosplayer wants a friend or handler to tag along, let them. But be respectful of their time and energy, and be mindful of what's going on around you. Be mindful of like the crowds. Don't accidentally back up and bump into somebody's very elaborate cosplay. Yes.
As a tag on to that, I've been at cons where staff will stay in like busy hallways and will not let people stop her.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, like cats.
Like Taylor's room.
Yep.
Or Sally. They're like, no.
Yep. You need to. Yep. Yep. And that's a good point. Dragon Con, the sky bridges, they have signs everywhere. Don't take pictures in the sky bridges. Unfortunately, you also have the normies who kind of, not, or the, I say normies, but the casuals, the average folk who will not respect those boundaries, but they don't know better. We can silently judge them in the back of our minds, but at the end of the day, we're in control of our actions. So we want to make sure that we are doing right by folk. On-location etiquette for photographers. Communicate and be clear about intentions. If you are reaching for like what's called a TFP or time for print shoot, a shoot where you and a cosplayer are just getting together to grab some photos on location for fun, don't be offended if the cosplayer doesn't respond or says no, especially if they don't know you, if you're just starting out. Things get lost in Instagram DMs. That's just what it is. That cosplayer might have been busy that day. We all have, at this point, probably all have ADHD. See something pop up, and say, oh, I'll get back to that later, and then don't. So, yeah, this disappears into the ether. Bye. So don't be offended if a cosplayer doesn't respond or says no. Like, that bridge is not burned, like, unless you burn it. It could be a year from now when you all meet each other at a con and say, hey, you got some time, would you like some photos? And they say yes at that point. They don't remember, like, that time that they didn't say anything.
Like, I've friended people at cons and like messages have come up. They're like, oh, I followed you back.
Yeah.
And you sent me a message like 2 years ago and we met before.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't remember that and you don't remember that, but
Yeah.
nice to meet you again. This is great.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, somebody come, or I've had it 4 times this week, and was like, we've shot together before. I'm like, wait, what?
who are you?
You were blue last time I saw you. So,
People in cosplay.
yeah.
Shapeshifters.
Yep, exactly. Let the cosplayer bring a handler or escort. Cosplayers, red flag. Immediate red flag. If the photographer says no to a handler, that is a red flag. Just run. Do not shoot with them. If they come up with the excuse of like, oh, I don't want craziness or I don't want to turn my shoot into a circus, it's like, it's one person. Like, obviously don't bring your slightly unhinged brother or stepbrother to the shoot. Bring somebody trustworthy, but you should feel comfortable bringing somebody to a shoot. So don't touch a cosplayer or the props without permission. Be honest about the location. Did hear a story the other day about a photographer apparently bringing a cosplayer to a location, then having to walk 45 minutes or hike. Was not upfront with that cosplayer because they found out before that shoot, they would have said no to that location. So that's very gross. Especially if you have to consider the mobility of somebody's cosplay. And be respectful of cosplayers' boundaries. On location etiquette for photographers, be mindful of cosplayers' mobility, like I said. Respectfulness during the shoot is rad. Be professional in communications. I mean, if your friend's cutting up, that's one thing. But if you're working with somebody you've never worked before, and they are clearly uncomfortable, or even if you're working with a friend and they are clearly uncomfortable with things that you're saying, that's not okay. So it is that thing of, hey, let's be respectful. Let's be positive. Let's have that good communication that makes the cosplayer feel comfortable with the shoot. If the cosplayer does not feel comfortable with a shoot, it's going to come through on the images. That's the best case. Worst case is, let's say you have that reputation of saying weird things on shoots. Over time, that builds up. And it takes one cosplayer to be like, hey, this person sucks. And then on the internet, everybody else is like, wait, yeah, I've had this experience. Let me post these weird chat messages that or these weird DMs that they sent me. I've seen that happen so many times where it's fine until it's really, really not. And then there's this like long trail of receipts. So that's why it's very important to be professional. Again, recognize that photography is not a dating app. Check in with the cosplayer throughout the shoot. Are they tired? Are they getting tired? Are they too hot? And so on. Yes.
About respect and touching cosplayers and not touching cosplayers, the whole consent thing.
Yeah.
It's also okay as the one being photographer, being photographed, yeah, you're good. Relay the behavior. Just right from the get-go say, hey, if you need to touch me to move me someplace,
Yep.
shoulders, elbows, that's great. Don't touch anything else. It's also just as much on you as the one being photographed.
Yep.
To speak up.
Yep, exactly. Establish those boundaries off the top. Communicate those boundaries right off the top. Yes.
What if there's like nude pose, why don't you get on your knees?
Okay.
Say, ask if you can
A kneeling position.
Yeah, kneel.
pose to get on your knees.
Yep. Yes. So yeah, really how you frame language.
We can
Things
position
are
this to
a
a
little,
kneeling
Yeah.
position.
more
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
Just the
Exercise tact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like this, maybe a kneeling position
Yeah.
would be a
Yep.
good one for this
Yep.
cosplay, like,
Yep.
yeah.
For me, I'm like, and usually what I do is like, are you able to kneel?
Yeah.
Like, because cosplays may not be able to kneel. Like, or are you comfortable with kneeling? Because they may not want to get the cosplay dirty. So really framing it like that, as opposed to inadvertently doing it. That's what, like that whole, The Office, that's what she said thing back in the day. Or again, making the cosplayer feel uncomfortable. It's like, that sounds weird. What? So it's really about framing. 10:36, story time. Do I have time for this? No, I do not. Cosplay is not, photography is not a dating app. Already established that. I'll say it again. Do not approach cosplay as a hookup app. It is not Tinder. It is not Hinge. I mean, that's not to say like people can meet and hook like things. Forgot the word that I was going to say. Hit it off, but don't use a photo shoot to do that. Like that's weird and that's a trap. Like things can go very poorly. You can,
You can grow from there.
yeah, things,
But don't roll
yeah,
in and be like, you're pretty, I think
Yeah.
we should do something.
Yeah.
It would be like, you're leaving.
yeah.
Bye.
We're
Like,
done. Yeah, and like you can hear those stories of those from cosplayers who are like, "Hey, I had the shoot, but I think they wanted more out of that, and it really made me feel uncomfortable." But again, like I said, friendships can happen. People have met their partners through cosplay. I mean, we're all people, but there is time and place for that. So on location etiquette for cosplayers, leave for the shoot early. If you want a pet peeve, that's going to be for me. Like you have to make sure, if you have to be there at 8, you're going to have to allot enough time to get there. You also have to allot enough time to get ready, worry about traffic. Do you have to get ready on site? Like if you're in armor, you're probably not going to be driving in said armor. You might have to, like the Mandalorians that I shoot with, they have to suit up on site. So we have to have time allotted for that. Be respectful of the photographer's time and vision. Yes, it's okay to be like, hey, there are these shots that I would love to have. Can we try those? But the photographer does have a vision, hopefully. Let them do their vision or execute their vision. But of course, if that vision starts pushing on your boundaries, that's a whole nother conversation. That's not okay. But don't push the photographer's boundaries if they're not okay with like going into a particular location or an area for a shoot. They're not okay with trespassing. Like for me, I tend to play it safe when it comes to location. So I do have boundaries. Be respectful of that. When out of public location, again, you are a representative of the cosplay community. Your behavior is going to impact others, whether or not other people can shoot at that location. That's not even like cosplay photographers. That can be like senior portraits who go into like a nice little garden and are doing like the generic like blowing dust all everywhere, or those little party favors and all that, really wrecking the location, standing in flowers. What was once a good location is now inaccessible because the venue got tired of people doing things. Yes.
I have a small, very short story about that. In our local area, they set up a sycamore-like rows, so they're in beautiful rows.
Yeah.
And it was meant to be like a, hey, photographers photographers can come use this. They trashed it so much that it no longer is able to be used because people would come out for engagements, families, whatever. They were leaving furniture, they were leaving fireworks, they were leaving smoke grenades, and they literally, like it was something with our Metro Park, they shut it down.
Yeah.
Because people were being so disrespectful in the space.
Yeah. And you'll see that.
Happens outside of cosplay.
Yep.
It's just awful.
Yep, you'll see that. And I mean, and in this day and age, TikTok, folks filming their TikToks and doing really not cool skits and breaking things that they should not be breaking. That impacts.
A guy tackling people without asking.
The guy tackling people without asking, doing,
Broke a TV in a hotel room
yep,
or a skit.
yep. And again,
Into a fountain.
yep, Hall Mat, AWA, WeebCon,
Oh, we've caught this.
yeah. Hotels, like, cool, funny TikTok, go away. We don't want you anymore. Go to your little con center or convention center. Have fun there. What happens at the convention center is like, you know what? Here are your dates. Deal with it. The worst dates possible. We want no part of you. What happens then? So, all right, handlers. Bring a handler, welcome a handler. Handlers are your best friend in cosplay. Escorts are your best friend, even from a photographer's perspective. Handlers can be pack mules. That's great, especially if you have a large prop, large costume. They provide safety when working with somebody new, underrated. They can keep an eye out on the costume. You know that there might be a weird thing that this costume does. You might have hair, not to call you out. You might have a hair that randomly goes above the ear. Me as a photographer, I might not catch that. And when I see that in post, I'm like, oh, crap. I'm going to have to fix that. But now I'm kind of dreading looking at the photos and being like, oh, crap. Yeah. Yeah. So you can have somebody there to keep an eye on that weirdness. Because as a photographer, I might be locked down on taking the photo. And you might be in a rush. They can take BTS video. Again, photographers say no to bringing somebody to a shoot is a red flag. Don't. They can, for a photographer, they can hold items such as a reflector, pack mule, designated cape flipper, and provides comfort to the cosplayer. A comfortable cosplayer means a comfortable shoot, means good images. Yes.
I have been the pack handler for multiple shoots, and I have stood there with like cosplay repair stuff because a cosplay that my wife was working on was being photographed in was so finicky that she would like get into a pose.
Yeah, and it
then
just.
I would have to walk up
It's like,
and
yep.
do stuff and then get out of the shot.
Yep, exactly. Like, handlers are your best friend. I mean, but there are plenty of times where I don't have a handler. That's okay. We'll make it work. Most of my shoots, I mean, probably don't have a handler, but I've worked with so many people at this point that we sort of have that, we are able to work together. But other times it's like, this costume is huge. This is my partner. They enjoy coming to these. Or this is my partner, we work together on these cosplays, sort of like with your example there. And that's okay. But yeah, don't say no to a handler, but also don't bring somebody super sketchy as your handler. So yeah, Shadowheart, just a quick story with this one. This is a case where we did have a handler. Her roommate came to the shoot. The first time working with we've known each other, but we never shot together before. But we went to this cool location outside or in Atlanta. Had the handler there. The handler, I mean, she sort of sat off in the corner. Didn't really interact. Took a little video, but was there like one to drive because she couldn't drive in that cosplay. But two, to also just be there for support. Keep an eye on the costume, that sort of thing. Posing without touching, I was going to do a demo, but we have 20 more slides to go through in like 15 minutes. So really this was like talking through how I would pose people. I do not really touch people. I don't need to. I mean, I will say, and I can show you right now, I either use my hands, like, hey, open your shoulders up this way. And if they go in the wrong direction, I'm like, no, other way. Or I can say, all right, can you look off over here or over there? I also do mirroring. If you're not familiar with mirroring, it's that point where you're like, okay, mirror the pose. Have one foot in front of the other. Maybe have your thumbs in your belt loop, that sort of thing. So that they see the pose that you're doing and can mirror that pose. And then they're making the adjustments based off of like what looks right. That way I don't have to actually touch them. I don't need to touch their shoulders to move them. I can just make the motion with my hands.
Getting, like, if you want them to look a certain direction, turn around from their perspective and find something you want them to look at.
Yep.
That is one of the best things. Because you're
Yep.
like, look there.
Yep.
Because people are like, where? If you
Yep.
turn around and you go, that balcony, they'll go, oh.
Yep. Yep.
So it said like, look at my finger, and then use my finger to
Yep.
go here. Or,
Yeah, exactly. So being able to be specific, use finger, use point of reference, the many times where I'm like, look at that tree. Which tree? Good point.
The one with the park.
It's like, congrats, I played myself on that one. Safety tips. I have a story about this one. It's like driving onto this shoot, and I was like, oh, this is a bad look. But yeah, familiarize yourself with work. Do you vibe with their portfolio? There are plenty of, like, you can look at somebody's portfolio and be like, I see what you're doing there. Really just like, yeah. I won't go into too much detail, but do you vibe with their work? Have you asked people who've worked with a photographer before, look at their portfolio, are the cosplayers tagged in any way? That can be a red flag at times. I mean, it might be at a con and they don't get that person's information, but if it's like a hallway shot, that's one thing. If it's an on-location shoot and no one's tagged, that's like, yeah, did you get blocked? Like, what happened there? Bring a trustworthy handler, have clear expectations, be on time or early, let your friends know where you're going. That's an important thing. So yeah, this shoot, yeah, when I say it was not a great look, and like when I was heading out there, basically I was working with this cosplayer when I was out in LA, and I was just like, one of those things where I do when I travel is meet with folks, meet with cosplayers, hey, let's shoot. So I reach out to this cosplayer who'd worked with another photographer I know. Say, hey, you want to shoot? Like their Star Wars look. It's like a High Republic sort of look. And it's like, yeah, we'd love to shoot. It's like, oh, Vasquez Rocks looks pretty cool, which is like this desert, like outside of LA, very picturesque and all that. And she was cool with it. But as I'm driving, I'm like, wait, I'm driving to meet this girl in a desert. In retrospect, that's not the greatest look. But we made it work. The day before, I had a shoot where somebody recommended the location for me, and we'll meet here. And it's a sketchy part of town with graffiti everywhere, and I'm like, huh, I guess this is how I die today. So it works both ways, guys. It does. So yeah, when I first started cosplay, I had 8 years of experience in wedding, lifestyle, fashion. No one knew who I was. And the point of this is, people did not respond to my DMs. People did not say, hey, let's shoot. Because they had no idea who I was. But I wasn't offended by that. It sucks. But I understood that, hey, no one knows who I am. I don't have that reputation. But it was only when I built relationships. I had a friend of mine, back when Instagram meetups were a thing. If y'all remember the Instagram meetup days. If you don't, then that makes me feel old. But went on an Instagram like meetup trip to Savannah. Met this dude who had connections with the cosplay scene. Told him about my desire to get the world of Gwendana off the ground. I needed to meet cosplayers, needed to meet costumers. And he introduced me to two of the guests here. Emily and So Angry, and Jen of Idle Ambition. Those were two of the first cosplay shoots I have ever done. And it was because I met this one person who wasn't even a cosplayer. And from there, I was able to build a relationship, build a portfolio, and build that network. So yeah, that's my first 3 cosplay shoots. Photographer safety tips: choose a safe location. You know, our cities have sketchy locations. Atlanta has a share of sketchy locations. Orlando has a share of sketchy locations. I'm sure Raleigh has a share of sketchy locations. Choose a safe location for a photo shoot. Arrive early and scout the location ahead of time, if only for the fact to get a feel for the location, see if that location has issues. There have been plenty of times I'm like scouting, I'm like, oh, this is so good. Oh, wait, where am I going to go? If things look unsafe, be prepared to leave. That's okay. Something like starts going haywire, just know it's like, hey, we need to get out. Yeah, the safety is not worth the photos. Have a handler to keep an eye on the gear and props. So the scariest photo shoot of my life, man, I'm just like, it's 10:51. How did the hour go by this fast? And I still have like 14 slides. Oh well, scariest photo shoot of my life. This wasn't a cosplay shoot. This is back when I did fashion and lifestyle photography. We're on location in Atlanta, like in midtown Atlanta, not too far from where I work now. But we're out there, 2 models, makeup artist, all that. This man comes up, clearly had issues, but immediately started yelling at me. Started yelling racial slurs. Started getting real nasty. F you, dropping the N-word left and right. And I'm like, oh, this is a problem. This is not going to be a problem. This currently is a problem. So I'm first and foremost worried about the models. So I have to I have to start yelling. Be like, hey, you need to back up. We are not doing this. And immediately get them out. Talk to the police, or not, talk to the security in the building. Say, hey, this man there's somebody out there who's being dangerous. And then we have to move on. We have to go somewhere. So we have to be mindful of our location. We have to be mindful of our safety when we're out on location. And if it does get scary, we need to go. The next part is logistics, and there's going to be some overlap with what I talk about at 2 o'clock with locations. But so you have a photo shoot. Well, now what? So establishing that best way to communicate is going to be important. Instagram, phone, smoke signals, whatever works. Communicate the meetup time and location. Research the source material so you can choose the location that best fits that cosplay. For impromptu shoots at a con, ask the cosplayer about the character. Lord knows I don't know half the things I'm shooting, especially at a con where I'm like, oh, that looks cool. Want some photos? Cool, what is that? Pull together and share a mood board. Watch for the weather. Weather is cruel. Value of mood boards, really, it's a collection of photos that serve as inspiration and guidance, give you and the cosplayer ideas for a given photo shoot, and can also help level set. Like, again, you don't want to go into a fantasy shoot and then the photographer like, hey, you up for some boudoir stuff? Like, okay, that just went from 0 to 60 very quickly. Also, no, we did not communicate that. If you communicate a boudoir shoot and everybody says okay to a boudoir shoot, great. But if you try to change gears like that, that's, so have that level set. So mood board breakdown, look for the signature poses, iconic moments of the series, general posing ideas for composition for framing. Consider sharing that mood board via like Instagram, those saves, Dropbox, OneDrive, or Pinterest. Mood boards are also great when you're running out of ideas. Like you're on a shoot and like, wait, I just ran out of poses. But okay, mood board. All right, we got something. So go beyond cosplay, scroll through fashion, editorial photos, lifestyle photos, heck, even senior portraits, wedding photos, especially if you're doing a couple shoot, engagement photos, wedding photos. Treat detail shots of a cosplay as you would detail shots of a wedding. That's going to be very important. And scroll through social media with intention. Find things that inspire you instead of like scrolling mindlessly through TikTok. Call times. Set up the meeting time at least 30 minutes before you plan to start shooting. You have to consider makeup time. How long does it take to get suited up? What is the travel time from the home and to the location? What's traffic looking like? What is parking looking like? What are they going to have to get ready on site, or do they get ready at their house? And travel time from the car to a photo shoot spot, because it can take 30 minutes depending on the location. Like in this particular photo here, we wanted to do golden hour. We could not do golden hour because issues with getting to the hotel. We started much later than we wanted to. That's okay, we were able to make it work. But it's one of those things where things can go haywire. Chun-Li photo shoot. We were looking for, I told Yaya about this bamboo forest outside Atlanta. Originally wanted to do like graffiti. When she heard bamboo, Kyle back there was there for this. And just like, yeah, let's do it. Thing about this bamboo forest is it is the hike, yes. I was clear that it would take a little bit. Even I kind of underestimated how long it would take. It was like 45-minute hike through like hills, mud. But I was intentional about communicating. This is going to take time to get there. You want to bring comfortable shoes. Melinda was also there in cosplay, but instead of walking down in cosplay, she had it in a garment bag, but her wig on, and was able to get to the site, put the cosplay on at the bamboo forest, get the photos there. So when you're intentional, when you communicate that, the cosplayer can now factor that into the plans. That's important. Don't surprise them with the 45-minute hike, because then they might get to the location sweaty, or they might get muddy, that sort of thing. Yeah, makeup to touch up. So that's why it's important to be intentional. Weather woes, hot, cold. It's Katsucon 2024. The wind was brutal. It was mean, the meanest wind I've ever seen. That impacted the shoot. You look at the weather app. It says it's not raining, but it's clearly raining. So you need to have that in the back of your head, be able to like either postpone or figure out how we're going to work around this weird weather, especially at a con where you have no choice but to shoot on that day at that time. So, Katsucon, this shoot here, it was like 90 degrees. We had to work that into our plans. Communication, stay engaged. Don't leave a cosplayer out on an island. We have like 1 minute. Provide positive feedback. If the pose isn't working, readjust. Be mindful of the rules, and have fun. Remember that we are representatives of the cosplay community. Thank you.